Hi, today we're going to take a look at the Samyang 85mm f1.4 Mark II, and we're going to compare it to its two counterparts from Sony and Sigma. So, let's take a look. And now, in mid-2022, the Samyang second generation full-frame 85mm f1.4 E-mount lens is smaller and lighter than the first generation and includes several design improvements, including weather sealing and new controls, as well as improved autofocus motor. We will start, as we always do, with the optical design of the lens. It includes 11 elements in 8 groups with 4 HR elements and 1 ED element. When it comes to materials, the lens feels nice in the hand with a combination of aluminum and hard plastics, and the lens itself is pretty light. In terms of size and weight, the lens is about 11 centimeters long and is indeed pretty lightweight at around 540 grams. The lens has a single wide ring which can be used for focusing or to control the lens aperture. The ring has a nice grippy texture and it turns fairly smoothly, although not as smoothly as that of the Sony or the Sigma lenses, and we shall discuss that a bit later. As with most recent Samyang lenses, the new 85mm has a focus hold button and a custom switch with 2 modes. As we noted in previous Samyang reviews, these modes can be set via the Samyang docking station and software to change between manual focus and autofocus or aperture control. According to Samyang, the lens has a weather sealing in no less than 7 places. At the moment, the Samyang 85mm f1.4 Mark II only comes in an E-mount version. With the included plastic hood, the lens is about 16 centimeters long. When it comes to the aperture, the lens includes 9 rounded aperture blades. We shall see later on how this affects the bokeh of the lens. Finally, the lens comes with a 72mm front filter thread. Now let's move over to performance and we'll start with focusing. We tested all 3 lenses in both stills and video, and here are the results that we've got. In our stills test, trying to shoot a fast-moving target in changing lighting conditions with our Sony A1 proved challenging for all 3 lenses, with pretty low success rates. The Sigma fared a little bit better than the older Sony, and the Samyang came last in this test. We also tested all 3 lenses in video mode. The Sony and Sigma performed well, and the Samyang performed okay, although it did hunt once, and this is in tune with our previous experience with the lens. It is also worth mentioning that out of the 3 lenses, the Sony had by far the noisiest autofocus motor, another sign of its age, and we expect Sony to come up with a new version pretty soon. We also tested the focus throw of all 3 lenses. Regretfully, all 3 lenses do not seem to have a linear focus mechanism, which means that if you focus faster or slower, your focus will move more or less. This might be good for stills, but it's far from ideal for video work. All 3 lenses do not offer image stabilization. So far, only Tamron and Canon offer 85mm stabilized fast lenses. We tested the sharpness of all 3 lenses using our special large professional Imatest high-end chart on our Sony A1. In the center of the frame, the Samyang is fairly sharp wide open with visible improvements between f2 and f2.8. Surprisingly, the corners look very good wide open, although extremely dark. The Sigma might be a tad sharper in the center wide open, but is significantly less so in the corners. The Sony is possibly the sharpest of the 3, both in the center and the corners wide open, although compared to the Samyang the difference is not huge. When it comes to close-up performance, while none of the 3 lenses is even remotely close to a macro lens, the Sony has a somewhat closer focusing distance of 80 centimeters compared to 85 centimeters for both the Sigma and Samyang. As you might expect, the Sony has a slightly better maximum magnification of 1 to 7.6 versus 1 to 8.3 and 1 to 8.4 for the Samyang and Sigma respectively. When it comes to close-up sharpness, none of the 3 lenses is particularly sharp wide open close-up. However, closing down to f2 improves the center sharpness significantly on all 3 lenses, with the Sony ranking first, the Sigma slightly behind it, and the Samyang in close 3rd position. Both the Samyang and the Sigma has a ton of reading in our testing. The Sony, on the other hand, has a relatively small amount of breathing, and if you're using a camera with breathing compensation like our new A7R Mark V for example, the Sony has practically zero breathing. Out of the 3 lenses that we have tested and with the lens compensation turned off, the Sigma seems to have the least amount of longitudinal chromatic aberrations, with the Sony and Samyang just slightly behind it. The Samyang seems to have significantly more flare compared to the Sigma and the Sony lenses in our testing. While all 3 lenses seems to have a lot of vignette wide open with the lens compensation turned off on the camera, the Samyang cleans up very nicely between f2.8 and f4 and looks significantly cleaner compared to the Sigma and even a little better than the Sony at f4. In our test with the lens compensation turned off, the Sigma seems to show a huge amount of pincushion distortion, while the Samyang and Sony seems to display a slight unevenness on the left side of the frame. Looking at the bokeh, the Samyang has a fairly large clear bokeh, especially around f2, but it is far from being round even in the center of the frame. With the Sigma, you will also be getting better results with the best bokeh at around f2 with large, clear and fairly round circles near the center of the frame. The best out of the 3 is probably the Sony with large, clear and round circles at the center at around f2. We shot with our Samyang 85mm f1.4 Mark II over a period of several months in 2022, both with our A1 and more recently with our A7R Mark V, and here are some sample images and videos. So let's conclude. Samyang's goal with the second version of its 85mm lens was to create a lightweight, affordable, fast portrait lens with all of its latest features. The lens certainly ticks all of these boxes and also provides good sharpness across the frame as well as low levels of chromatic aberrations and barrel distortion. Compared to the Sigma 85mm and the now aging Sony 85mm GM lenses, it lags behind in most other aspects, but it is also quite a bit cheaper, making it a viable option for lower budgets. Talking about pricing, the Samyang 85mm f1.4 Mark II currently sells for $800, while the Sigma 85mm f1.4 sells for $970 and the Sony sells for $1,800. So that was our look at the Samyang 85mm f1.4 Mark II lens. You can check out the full review with all 5 test results on LensVid.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to find more videos just like this. We have a lot more videos coming up in 2023, including another Samyang review. See you next time.